Hi folks, welcome to part 4 of this Tddi Mondeo running rough video. Time to look at all the research and try and come to some conclusions. See you in a minute. Right, okay then, well as you know in the last video we found some fault codes. Now as I said to you in the previous video, there's two trains of thought here. One of them is to take your car to a so-called professional and let them diagnose it, or you have a look yourself using all the researches and resources around you and trying to implement a bit of common sense and logic. Now I've been looking in the forums, and one thing I've found is you probably know we've got 3 basic fault codes. First of all, we've got a P0148, we've got a P0149, and we've got a P1564 fault codes. The first one to come up is obviously the one at the bottom. So this one would have come up first, that one would have come up second, and that one would have been the last one up. I've done a bit of research online, and I've looked in forums, and I've looked all over the internet. And one of the most common faults is the P0148 and the P1564 codes coming up together. If you go to Google and you type in Ford Mondeo Mk3 Tddi and type in these two codes, you'll find a lot of people and a lot of research of people who have actually had that problem. Now these are some of the people who have had both of these codes together and what their problems was. Some people have had a fuel pump solenoid. That's the fuel pump, the main fuel injection pump. On the back of it there's a solenoid, has been knackered. They've replaced that and the problem's gone away. Some people have actually changed the actual main fuel injection pump as well. They've changed that and the fault's gone away. They've changed the lift pump, that's been knackered, and they put a new one in and the fault's gone away. The fuel injection pump relay, they've changed that and the pump's gone away. And they've also, other people have reported faulty wiring to the fuel pump, and also some people have reported that they've changed the crankshaft position sensor and these two codes have disappeared. Well, that's all well and good, but which one of those problems could we have? The only way to come to some sort of process of elimination is to actually go through the different scenarios which I've just mentioned now and find out if I've got any symptoms which are the same. And what we'll do, we'll have a little look at the symptoms of each of them different faults that bring up them two identical codes and see if I've actually had them or got them faults. And then, as I say, if not, I can actually disregard certain issues there. So let's have a look at that now. So first of all, the first one we've got there would be the fuel pump solenoid. Now, the symptoms of a fuel pump solenoid on its way out or going or gone is that you tend to get a diesel knock from your engine, and that's quite a loud knocking noise. Now I haven't got that, I've never had that, so I'm ruling out the fuel pump solenoid as the first one that brings up this code. The next one is the fuel pump is knackered. Now again, very broad that is, and normally the people who have had these two fault codes come up, when they've had to change their fuel pump and it cured the problem, most of them experienced no start situations. In other words, the engine wouldn't start full stop, or the car was in limp mode. And in both cases, I haven't got either of them. I've never had either of them. And the chances are now that I'm probably going to rule out the actual main fuel pump. Now the next one we're looking at is that they speak of the lift pump, which is the secondary pump, or sorry, the primary pump that is just after the fuel tank on a Tddi. You don't have this on a TDCI, by the way. And the lift pump is located at the back of the front of the right rear wheel behind the driver's seat on a right-hand drive car. Now some people have said they've had this changed, and the symptom of a lift pump is that you can get fuel supply errors on your computer or your fault codes. Well, we have got that, so far it's looking good that we've got something in common with other people who've had the lift pump. Another thing is the fuel pump relay. Now again, the fuel pump relay would be what is supplying voltage to our fuel pump, and if we've got a dodgy set of connections in there, that can lead us to a a problem or a reading from the fuel pump saying that it could have a voltage problem. And if we actually look at our fault codes, the P0148, for example, it says it may be caused by supply voltage where the supply voltage is out of range. So that is for the P0148. The P0149 code also makes that statement where it says supply voltage to fuel injection pump out of range. So that is tying in with so far with that. And also the fuel pump relay, which, as I said to you, controls that. It could be that's obviously one of our possible things to look at as well. So I've got the fuel pump relay and I've got the lift pump so far, going by previous information in forums and with other people who have reported the same problem. Another thing that where people have had these two codes and is faulty wiring to the fuel pump loom connector. Now, the wiring to the actual fuel pump obviously connects into a connector apparently, and yet again corrosion can set in. So one of the things I'm going to be checking as well is the wiring to the fuel pump by pulling apart the connector and obviously spraying it and lubricating it and cleaning it. And one of the other things people have said that they've had when they've had this problem is a crankshaft position sensor. Looking at other people who have had problems with the crankshaft position sensor, most instances they give a no start scenario. In other words, that the sensor's broken down, and bearing in mind it's the sort of thing where the sensor generates its own voltage. There's obviously an internal problem with the sensor, and if you have that, you've normally got a no start situation. I haven't got a no start situation, so I'm ruling out the crankshaft sensor on the strength of the information that I found from numerous people who have a crankshaft position sensor voltage problem. Now with the fuel pump relay, as I spoke to you a second ago, the fuel pump relay would possibly provide constant fueling supply problems. And bearing in mind, I'm getting a supply when the car heats up. Now this could be a situation where that fuel pump relay gets hot, it starts to break down. And as I say, that can be a problem with the internal contacts of the actual relay. So that's why I'm not ruling that fuel pump relay out. And again, wiring problems, intermittent fuel supply faults. That's what you would possibly get with a wiring problem. Now again, this may be where the joints are heating up if you've got a high resistance joint, and when the car warms up, it could be causing that issue. So I'm not ruling out wiring problems, the fuel pump relay, and also the lift pump. As I said to you, the fuel pump, if that was knackered, the chances are it probably wouldn't start, or you'd be in limp mode or something like that. And the fuel pump solenoid would provide you with possibly with a diesel knock or something like that. Now one of the other things that leads me to the lift pump as well is that a lot of people who have experienced errors with the lift pump speak of running the car very, very low on fuel. And bearing in mind, as I said to you, when we had this situation, our car was down to probably 26 miles left in the tank, which is probably scraping the bottom of the tank, so to speak. And as you know, one of the four first cheapest ports of call was to change the diesel filter, which we did. And if you remember in the first video, when we actually first had the fault occurred on a set route on our journey, which we took. Then we changed the filter, and then we went for the same journey. And with the new filter in, the car was able to go further, which could indicate that that filter could have been dirty and impregnated as well. And by putting a new filter in, it just increased the fuel a little bit better so that the car could travel a bit further. So this is why using a bit of investigation and diagnosis from other people who have reported it in the forums, and also people, as I said to you, who report them two fault codes, may have had other issues like the solenoid, the relay, the lift pump. By doing a bit of cross-checking and ruling out other things by what the symptoms of them indicators are. So don't forget, this is all what we're doing without actually lifting the bonnet. It's pure investigation using the fault codes that we got off of our 4Scan scanner and looking at the fault codes and then going online to find out what the diagnosis is. Because don't forget, when you take it to a garage and they plug it in, and let's say, for example, they come up with, as we have, the 0148 and the P1564, those give out a specific detailed set of instructions for them codes saying fuel delivery pump error reported by the fuel injection pump, and the fuel timing error reported by the fuel injection pump, and also a fuel injection pump requesting reduced fueling mode. When you take it to a garage, they might be looking at and saying, right, this is going to be the fuel pump, and as a result of that, change your main £700 fuel pump. And there's many stories online as to people who have taken their £1,000 Mondeo 2001 Mondeo to a garage, they've changed the fuel pump, got the car back, and the problem is still there. Many garages appear, by the information that I've looked at, appear to steer away from this problem, or they overcharge. They give out a ridiculous price, and knowing that the owner will probably not take the job on. Only because interpreting fault codes is a science where just because you've got a fault code that has appeared on your car, it doesn't necessarily mean that that fault code is the item or the sensor where the problem is. So diagnosing a problem, especially unique to a certain type of car, really could be done by, or should be done by, a specialist of that type of car who are familiar with how the fault codes react and interact with other fault codes and sensors within the car. There is also a thing to look at where you look at a thing called fuel trims. There's short-term fuel trims and long-term fuel trims. These are what you look at on your scanner. Now again, that is an art and a learning curve itself, not for this video, obviously. So all I'm trying to say to you is that if you're going to put your trust into someone else, and even people report in the forums that they've actually taken their car to the Ford garage, and even the Ford garage hasn't sorted the problem out because they've just gone straight for the fuel pump and it hasn't been the problem. So where do we go from here? Most people put their car on eBay and say spares or repairs, and then they let it go. I can't do that. I'm not going to do that because there's so many people out there who are in the same situation, whereas if you can just apply the little bit of logic which I've just shown here, or fault diagnosis or fault tracing with the instances that I've done hours of research on, you might be able to get some sort of idea as to what your possible problem is. Now, as I said to you, the three things that initially that I'm going to be checking is, one, I'm going to be checking the relay that supplies the fuel pump. I'm not going to put a new one in. I'm going to be taking the connector off, and I'm going to be lubricating the connector with some contact spray, pushing the relay in and out in the attempt to clear any possible drop in voltage due to dirty or dodgy connections. To replace them, I think they're about £36. I've seen them on eBay. So those are the things I'm going to check, which isn't going to cost me any money, and those are the things that my little investigation here has pointed to. So those are the things I'm going to be checking first. So I'm going to go outside now, and we're going to have a look at them things which I just discussed. Right, okay, as you can probably see here now that I've taken the battery out again, that is just to reveal where this relay is situated down here, and it's held in by an 8mm bolt. So I'm just going to do this, undo this, and we can hopefully withdraw the relay and just take a look at it, and as I said to you, lubricate things a little bit. And hopefully there should be enough slack there to pull it forward or back. Not much room in here at all. Okay, try and get it out the back here. Okay, there we go. Well, before I start pulling it about, I'm just going to give it a general look around first of all, and everything seems to be pretty much in order, and all I'm going to do is just to withdraw it from its base, which is just a simple matter of pulling up, and that's the relay in question, which you can see the details of it there, I hope. And my first observations are looking at any possible burn marks inside, which I can't actually see, and no sign of any connection issues there. All the connections seem bright, but as I say, that doesn't mean to say that this has got an issue with it. Now, unfortunately for me, it doesn't look like these come apart, and this was the relay which I tried to locate from the breaker's yard, and all the cars, all the Mondeos that I saw down there had this missing. So it has got a wiring diagram of the internals 1 and 2, terminals 1 and 2. I would suggest are the coil voltages. So if I had applied a voltage across terminals 1 and 2, that should bring in terminals 3 and 5, as you can see there. 3 and 5, there's a switch. So when you put your feed on 1 and 2, or your 12 volt supply, that should close that switch and put a feed from number 3 down to number 5 down there. So 3 and 5 are the ones that carry the load, and that's what could be overheating them terminals there. So the only way to do that is to actually open it up or replace this unit. I don't really want to do that yet. I'm basically confirming on the outside of the relay that it looks clean and that the connector looks clean with no signs of any arcing at all. So I'm happy with that, and I'm happy with these terminals, but I'm not necessarily happy with the internals yet. There's some more investigation to do there. Right, okay. As you know, for me to test this really, I've got to get to the voltage, and I really wanted to see the contacts inside. Now, I didn't believe that you can take this apart, but what I've actually done, I've taken one of these things, and although you can't see it there, along each straight edge, I've carefully just inserted it in the seam and run it all the way around each square, like that, until the knife slid through. Now be careful if you're doing that. I then grabbed hold of the pin, one of the pins gently, one of the bigger pins that is, and gently wiggled and pulled, and hey presto, out has come the unit. Now the only thing I'm telling you to note here is that pin number 5 was the bit nearest that little cutout there. So when it goes back in, pin number 5. So I'm only doing this because I don't have a replacement to check it with, and the replacements are quite dear. There's the coil I spoke of, and that connects down to these 2 smaller terminals there, as you can see. So if you apply voltage to that, it should close a set of contacts, which will then allow current to flow this way. And this is the cable, or the controlling cable, that will go to your fuel pump and provide its feed. Now don't forget, you can see by the size of the cable there that quite a lot of current probably flows in that, because it's quite a big cable. So I'm just going to have a look at the contacts now if I can. I'm going to open and close this manually by opening and closing the mechanism, and see if we get any resistance on these 2 bigger pins. So I'm going to do that, and I'll see you in a minute. Right, well here you can see now that I've got the relay on the counter, and I'm just going to show you the contacts now. These are the only contacts in this relay, so if these are dirty, this could be our problem. So I'm going to try and zoom right in for you. Well, as you can probably see, there's the air gap there, and as you can see, one side of the contact there, it actually looks very, very clean, very spotless, to be honest with you. Well, there you go, there's the other side of the contact there. Now I don't know whether you can see, but there is a black mark on there in the middle of that contact on that side. So I'm going to clean that contact, and then we're going to try it and see if that has made any difference. Right, so all I've done here basically is take a strip of wet and dry paper, cut it down to that width, hold the contacts, push it into the contacts, just hold it down and give a little pull. So I'm just holding down the contact while I pull it through, just to clean the surface of each contact. Now again, and I'm turning it over and obviously doing the other side of the contacts as well. Now, as I said to you, I haven't spent any money apart from a fuel filter on this. This is all part of my diagnostics. I could have just changed this over and then hope for the best, but I'm only doing this to show you what's inside that relay. And as you can actually see there, it is just one little contact that opens and shuts when the voltage is applied to that, and that allows, when it closes, it allows the current to flow through the big terminals there, as you can see. And if that is intermittent or dirty under load, then there's a good chance that that could be giving us our problem. So I'm going to put this back together now, and we're going to give it a test. Right, all back together. Just started to blink and rain and all, which is a nuisance, but there you go. Can't have it always. And you probably noticed it's been a few days since I produced the last video, part 3, because I've had that virus that's going about. Right, everything's the same so far. When I get to the end of this road and turn left, that's when things start happening. The temperature's just starting to come up now, exactly as it has done on the last 2 occasions. And I'm going to do exactly the same now. I'm going to floor it. No, it's still there. There we go. It's still there. I've had 2 hiccups. Exactly the same time. We're under exactly the same conditions. Now, I'm going to go a bit further, like we did the last time, because under normal driving conditions, if I just slow down, this is all part of my diagnosis now. Under normal driving conditions, the problem isn't there. As you can see, let me just slow down again. I'm going to pull in. I'm going to let a couple of cars go past. Again, ticking over lovely, no sign of any smoke out the back. And I'm going to pull away. Driving it as normal now. Driving it as normal. There we go, driving as normal. I'm not going to tow it yet. I would get behind the delivery van, look. So far, everything's as normal. Would be nice to indicate where you're going, mate. Normal driving. Normal driving. Fine. As you can see. Now I'm going to go to the top of this road again. Now, although I say normal driving, there's a bit of hesitation when I put my toe down a bit, like fuel restriction. Now I'm going to go round again, because as I say, I'm not sure. I'm thinking now, if the fuel pump had a problem with the voltage, in other words, one of the connectors, I'd possibly be getting this all the time. But as you can see, normal driving, don't seem to be a problem. Right, this is where we normally break down, as you know. And everyone who's had this with them 2 fault codes reports the same. A problem. Oh. No. It's playing up. Now I'm going to need to go back home quickly. So we definitely know that it's not that relay. Now I could have gone out and bought one of them for 35 quid. There we go, look. Now I've got a load of smoke out the back. And now it is bogging down. Now I'd say the car's up to normal operating temperature. There we go, look. We're bellowing smoke out the back now. Houston, we still got a problem. You're going to have to wait till the next part to find out what we're going to diagnose next. Hope this was of some interest to you. If those of you who think you've got a fuel relay problem, mine has been cleaned. It was a bit dirty, but that obviously wasn't the problem. So you can eliminate that from your investigations as I've just done there. See you again in the next video. Until then, bye for now.